to talk about grief and how we are misinterpreting it, completely misinterpreting it. And it came to my attention because I've been watching Bashar videos. We're big fans of Bashar, just channeled by Daryl Anka. And he's been channeling Bashar for 40 years now. So if you don't know who Bashar is, go check him out on YouTube. You'll find tons of videos. Basically, what Bashar is saying is that we are misinterpreting grief. That really what we're experiencing when we're in the throes of grief is a result of the belief that we're holding about the situation, about our loved one in our minds being gone, correct? So this point was driven home to me when my husband, Alan, passed away 4 years ago. And I was immediately being buffeted by alternating feelings of grief, abject sadness, depression, and then love and bliss. And I'd go, what the heck is wrong with me? Now, most people are not going to experience that because most people who are grieving are just believing their loved one is dead. Like, that's it. They're not having moments when most people aren't having moments when they're thinking, well, maybe they're not, maybe they're still here, or maybe I can hear him again. And if they do have that, then they might get a glimmer of that love. Okay. But of course, feeling love and bliss is kind of a far vibrational reach from grief. You know, grief is pretty low and dense, and love and bliss is high vibration. So there's a big gap there. But I was feeling that gap. I was being torn between feeling this love that Alan was broadcasting to me, and then my thoughts would turn negative and I would be thrown into despair. But now I really understand that what we're feeling emotionally is always the result of a belief we're choosing to have in that moment. And so when I pondered what Bashar has been saying, I thought, of course that's it. Because as I shifted away from the negative thoughts of loss and resentment and anger, because I was having a lot of emotional, let's say, upheaval around Alan's passing. It wasn't just that I was sad that he was, quote, dead. It was a lot of other things. I had a lot of feelings to process. So once I cleared that, the grief was very minimal. And it would only come up if my thoughts turned negative. Because if I was staying in a positive space within myself, I was more feeling his love. And now, like, oh my God, I'm feeling his love like almost like 24/7, pretty much, unless I start thinking negatively, which I rarely do anymore because I processed all my grief and my resentment and my anger and my remorse, etc. And what's left is only love. But now I understand why people feel such intense grief. It is going to be relative to the amount of love that's coming through, that now they're filtering through their belief system of that their loved one is lost to them, they'll never see them again, or they're dead and gone, whatever. And then that love is, in a sense, inverted. It's now misinterpreted, this immense love. Because hear me out on this. Think about it. When you have felt grief, of course, you're sad, you have tears, you feel the loss, you cry. But also when you feel immense love and joy and are in awe of something like a beautiful sunrise or maybe the birth of your child, and you move to tears, aren't you? You cry. There is a very fine line between tears of sorrow and tears of joy. And it all comes down to what are we thinking and choosing to believe in that moment that has us interpret it negatively or positively. Okay, because that's just how it is. You can feel tears when you're just deeply moved. And I felt that with Alan. He has made me cry, not tears of sadness, but tears of this incredible love. I recently was doing a meditation and I opened my heart and I was really inviting in source energy, right? Like all of creation. And I cried. I was crying, but it wasn't tears of sadness. I was so moved to the core of my being. But can you see where if you're feeling this love that they're sending you and you believe, you're thinking, choosing to believe in that moment that they're gone, you'll never see them again. You're going to turn that, you're going to invert it, twist it, and feel devastation. When in truth, you could, if you chose to believe that they're with you and that they're never going to leave you, you could change that up and feel love and feel even elation. But then your logical mind would go, well, wait, you're crazy. Like your loved one just died. So you go back to believing that lie and you're going to feel negative emotion. Okay. But that's what grief is. Grief is love, people. We are choosing to believe in that moment because we create our reality, we create our experience by the thoughts that we choose, the beliefs that we have. We're creating that experience. If we choose to believe they're dead, then we're going to experience that they're dead. That doesn't make it true. But because you believe that, you're going to create the experience that they're dead because that's how powerful you are. Whereas if you choose to believe, no, you're right here. I will be able to stay in touch with you. I'm going to continue to have a relationship with you. And you believe it, okay? You're not just saying it, hoping it's true. You really believe it with all your heart and soul. You believe it, you're saying it, you're going to feel love. And this explained to me what had puzzled me for all these 4 years, because I thought, why was I feeling waves of love and then despair and then love and then despair? I was going back and forth. Okay. And eventually it settled down a bit. But Alan would say, just cry, let it out because you make room for my love. But I'm here. But he knew that I had to process all my negative emotion, the anger, resentment, and just upset feelings that I had about him, how he was in our marriage. And chances are you've got to process some of that about your loved one, whether that's a partner, another family member. Few people have a perfect relationship with someone they love. I don't think anybody does. So depending on what you have that's unresolved, you have to shift through that. So that's understandable. That's what that grief is, that element of it, right? Even if you believe like I do and always have that we don't die, but I wasn't understanding that my negative emotion was filtering that love and therefore turning it into grief because I had to release that. Negative emotion is going to filter out that love. It's going to change that. And that's why we're misinterpreting it. So this is what I suggest you do and practice it. Okay. And I know it's going to maybe take some people some time, but I don't want to program you to think that it has to take some time, but it might. Because you're going to have to get used to this mindset because it's a big one. Because in our world, we're just programmed to believe people are dead, they're gone, and grief is part of life. And my goodness, there are workshops and symposiums and people who have built businesses, excuse me, around grief therapy. Not at all saying that's bad. We need that. There are people who are not going to be ready for what I'm talking about here. So we need that. But Grief is, in a sense, and I'm just be blunt here, is an industry. Therapy is built around grief. Okay, so this is kind of earth-shattering in many ways, and most people won't be ready for it. But if you're ready for it, if you're watching me right now, you're hearing me right now, and you feel some sense that this may be your truth, because it doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. What matters is, does this help you? So this is what I would like you to try out if you're open. Okay. So if you're in a state of still grieving, next time you feel that grief come in, I want you to identify what you're choosing to believe and see if you can shift it. I mean, in our academy, I've recently posted this exercise that we're going to repeat with everybody once a week, having them fill out this statement. Because again, what you're feeling is a result of a belief you're choosing. So in any moment, you could reflect on how you're feeling emotionally and ask yourself, or say to yourself, fill in the blanks with this statement: I am feeling grief, or I'm feeling depressed because I'm choosing to believe, and you fill in the blank. For example, I'm feeling depressed because I'm choosing to believe that I will not be able to communicate with my husband on the other side. Or so, whatever it is. Of course, you're going to feel negative emotion, but that negative emotion is an indication that your statement is actually not true, because you can, if you believe you can, right? You may not be able to do that in the moment, but if you believe you can work your way to that. So if you want to shift that, then see if you can start pondering the thought, the belief, the different belief that it is possible for you to communicate with your loved one on the other side. Think on that. How does that make you feel? Chances are it makes you feel a little bit better. May not make you feel happy, I'll grant you that. May not make you feel all the love that they have for you in that moment. But as you practice changing your beliefs and noticing how your emotional state shifts, you are making your way closer to their frequency, which is pure love. And you'll be able to feel more of their love rather than feeling the grief, the depression, the sadness that goes with choosing the belief that they're gone and you cannot connect with them. Practice that. Practice that. Okay. Do what you can to shift your emotional state by changing the thoughts you're holding. You can get good at this, I promise you, because you are right now creating your experience through the beliefs you're choosing to have in every moment. The beliefs now can be conscious, they can be unconscious. Now, unconscious is actually not below your conscious mind. Conscious and subconscious are actually above, higher frequency. So your unconscious is very powerful. It's more powerful than your conscious mind. So what you're holding in your unconscious is creating your experience, the beliefs you're holding there. Okay. Grief is optional. And if you're feeling it, it's okay. I am not telling you to repress your grief. I'm just trying to explain to you the physics of it. Like, what is it really? Because beliefs are thoughts, beliefs that we choose. They're not truths. There are no fixed truths in all of creation, except the 5 that we talked about in a previous live, which are, again, Bashar's law of creation, 5 laws of creation. Those are it. Everything else is adaptable. Everything else we can change. So the first law is you exist. You will never cease to exist because once you exist, you exist. You cannot not exist because non-existence is filled with everything that doesn't exist. And clearly you exist because you're right here. So you cannot not exist. Number two is the all is the one, and the all are the one. Or did I say that wrong? The all is the one, and the one are the all. Like we're basically all one with God. And that cannot be changed. You are the part that is God, you're the whole that is God. Okay. So you cannot not be God. You cannot not be a creator because God, source, creates. So you cannot not create your reality. You cannot not be God in whatever existence you are in. And the third law is what you put out is what you get back, which basically means your thoughts create, because the thoughts that you put out, the thoughts that you hold, whatever you send out, you get back. So this is why you create your experience, your reality, through the thoughts and beliefs you're choosing to hold on to. The predominant beliefs and thoughts are what manifest in your reality, and it can be no other way because of the third law. Does that make sense? So I want to really emphasize that because it's the basis of what we're talking about here, about why grief is a belief and based on the thoughts, beliefs you're choosing to have about death. If you change your belief about death, then you change your experience of death and loss. And not only that, because you let go of that false belief, you actually raise your vibration and make it easier to connect to the other side. Because believing that they're dead and holding that grief and depression basically means that your vibration is way low. And so it's really difficult, for some people impossible, to connect through the veil. You have to raise your vibration. You have to be of a frequency that's closer to fifth density. And this is why a lot of people in their spiritual awakening, okay, and this journey, by the way, of an interdimensional relationship is a journey of awakening. It is not simply a psychic development path. No. It's a personal and spiritual development path, which means you've got to let go of your limiting beliefs and your fears and your trauma, because that keeps your vibration low. You don't understand that people can be profoundly psychic and have a very dense vibration. Psychic ability does not require somebody to be spiritually adept. Not at all. Some of the most distorted people I have ever met, okay, were very psychic, but really messed up as people. And you may have met some people like that. Whereas somebody who's spiritually advanced will have their psychic abilities in whatever ratio and strength that is appropriate for their path. Because it's not about just having this brute power and being, being able to read everybody's minds and move objects or move mountains or whatever. It's not about that, unless that's what's appropriate for that person's life theme. Somebody who's a spiritual adept may not even be interested in that. Like they're not here for that. But that doesn't mean they don't have it, even if they're not demonstrating it. Right? So there's a lot of misinformation about psychic ability, about what is required to have this relationship through the veil. It is all about frequency. It's all about you shifting into fourth density, which is where your loved one is closer to you because they're in fifth density. You cannot be in fifth density unless you are non-physical. So you have to drop your body. But you don't have to be in fifth density to connect with your loved one. You can be in fourth density and have an incredible relationship through the veil. This is what we're teaching. This is what we're helping people with in our sessions, in our academy, in everything we do. It's all about raising your frequency, but you've got to do the work and you've got to get a handle on your thoughts because there's no other way through this but for you to be more conscious and deliberate with the thoughts you're choosing. And what I hear Spirit saying to me is, number one, you've got to understand how powerful you are because most of you don't and are afraid of it because to accept the power that you have means no excuses anymore. You can't say, well, that just happened to me. I don't know why. And you can't play victim anymore because you understand that the universe is responding to your beliefs and your vibration in every millisecond. So it's not about blame anywhere. We're not saying, oh, it's your fault, but it's the responsibility is about response, right? So the universe is responding to you. It cannot not respond to your beliefs because what you put out is what you get back. So it can't change that. It can't do anything but give back to you the belief you put out. The predominant belief that you put out has to come right back at you. So if you don't like what you see out here, you got to look in here, in you, within you. What am I believing? Choosing to believe. Because remember, beliefs are not foisted upon you. Sure, you might have been programmed to believe something, but the minute you realize, wait a minute, I don't accept that program. I reject that program. You start to dismantle it. Really, you do. Don't hold the belief that changing your beliefs is difficult. If you believe that, then it will be. It doesn't have to be. I have seen people shift like that, like because they're ready. Usually it takes for some people a dire situation, like they've maybe have 4-stage cancer, and they realize, wait, I've got to change my thinking. I got to change the beliefs I'm holding. Now they're motivated. So maybe your life isn't bad enough yet for you to say, I'm sick of this. I don't believe this anymore. I choose to believe something else. Then good for you. But you don't have to wait till you are in a place of, kind of chaos and about to die because you got some terminal diagnosis to change. Many times, the reason people actually have diseases, cancer, what have you, is because they haven't been listening to their guidance. It's saying, got to change, you got to change, you got to take a look at what you need to shift. And so their subconscious is trying to get their attention. Hey, you got to look at what you're believing here. You got to change some things here or not. Because even if you don't and you do die and exit this world, that's okay. You're still going to learn on the other side. But your body is often telling you something's not right. Get a grip. And that is what many times people do when they get seriously ill. I mean, life-threateningly, right? Ill. They really do only then start asking the questions, what is my life about? Who am I? Am I being true to myself? They start asking deep questions. What is life about? Is there a heaven? And they may start to shift. And they may get really inspired and determined to just change. And then they will make a 180. You can do that without conjuring up that dire diagnosis. You don't have to go through that. Just make up your mind. You're living in the time of the awakening. This means there are energies here to support you This means the other side is coming through stronger than ever. But you, only you, can make that decision. Like I've had it. I'm tired of living in fear. I'm tired of not loving myself. I'm tired of worrying about money all the time and believing that I'm unworthy, or that I'll never succeed in anything. I'm tired of that. That may be what it takes for you to just break through. Just say, I'm sick and tired of that. Good. Good for you if you hit rock bottom. Because sometimes that's what it takes for people to turn everything around. And I've seen that with some clients of mine, that they have to literally fall in the gutter in their life. And then they rise up because there's nowhere else to go but up once you hit that rock bottom. It doesn't have to take that for you to do it. I'm just here to tell you that you can motivate yourself if it means enough to you. You don't have to contract a disease. You don't have to get, in a dire straits in your life. But if you do find yourself in that, then embrace it and say, great, I guess I'm creating this to galvanize me and to be the catalyst for my transformation. I am all in. Okay, let me have it. So if that's you, then celebrate it. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but this can be your rebirth, right? It can lead to a complete shift in your life that makes you happier, healthier, wealthier, everything. Okay. People are doing this today. Okay. You can do it today. But just remember what I've said at the beginning of this time together we're having. Grief is the result of a belief you're choosing. So what are you choosing to believe? What are you choosing to believe? Why not believe in the afterlife? What do you have to lose to lean into that? Nobody can prove God exists. That's true. But remember, nobody can prove that God doesn't exist. So which one do you want to bet on? Which belief is going to take you further? It's up to you to decide. Really, it doesn't matter to me or really anybody else. It's like, what do you choose to believe? If it works for you, go for it. If it doesn't, maybe you don't want to go for it, right? Like, choose whatever you prefer. All beliefs are true and all beliefs are false. Have you heard that statement before? Because I have. Basically, that means beliefs are neutral. Beliefs are just going to give you whatever you believe. So choose whatever you believe because that's what you're going to create. And it's up to you, because you have free will, to believe what you like and create whatever reality, whatever world, whatever experience, whatever physical body, whatever you want, you get to choose. Because nobody can think for you. Nobody can believe for you. They can influence you. They can try to convince you to think and believe like they do. But if you refuse to, it won't happen. You just reject it. No, don't want to believe that. I don't think I like that. You are the power, the force in your life, and don't let anybody convince you otherwise. You can choose to feel love more than grief. Yes, you may have to process your anger, your resentment, your fear, etc. So you're going to have moments of grief probably, but they can start to lessen when you realize, wait, some of my grief is because I'm choosing to believe something negative related to my loved one's transition. I don't need to choose that. That is up to you. Okay, up to you. Now, before we go, I want to touch on why you and others may find it difficult to let go of the grief and focus on the love and the joy that they're beaming to you, okay? Or even joy in your life in general, right? Like with the people in your life, your friends, and other experiences that you may be having in the physical world. Some people feel reluctant to let go of the grief and feel happy because they feel as if they're betraying their loved one. Like feeling grief is honoring their quote memory. And I promise you, that is the last thing anyone on the other side wants for any of us. First of all, they would rather we create new memories with them in the present, in the now, because now is all that exists and here is where they are right now. So they rather us focus on being with them in the now. Also, they love to experience life through and with us, and they can when we invite them in. We invite them to come with us out for dinner or on a trip with us. I have lots of students that invite their loved one to accompany them where they go on a trip or just the day-to-day excursions, right? You can feel their presence. They can experience this world with you, through you, because they have, let's just say, an all access pass. No, they don't have a body, so they can't be here like this, right? But they can still be here as consciousness. They can still experience what we're experiencing, see what we're seeing in their own way, and they can be experiencing this world. But they won't do that unless there's a reason to be with us, and we're inviting them in. But some people feel like it's not okay for them to feel happy because they feel like they're distancing themselves from their loved one, which could be is completely opposite. You are distancing them from them when you feel the sadness because now you're thinking negative and your vibration just dropped. But when you're feeling joy, you're actually drawing closer to them and they can share in your joy. But the reason some of you find it difficult to make that switch is because that grief is your last memory of them when they're in a body. Because if you were, especially if you were with them as they passed and you experienced their transition or the immediate shock of hearing that they're dead, if you weren't there when they died, that is set in you. Like that grief, that shock, that sadness is, in a very real sense, your last memory of them when they were in a body. So on an unconscious level, you're hanging on to that because you associate that with them. It's like you kind of don't remember what it's like to feel joy with them because that loss, the illusion of loss, so shocking that it's just kind of is just so intense within you, your field, and you can't seem to find that joy about them because all you're feeling is that loss and the shock and the belief you have that they're dead. Okay, so you've got to reframe that. You've got to understand why it's not easy for you to let go of the grief, because on an unconscious level, you are hanging on to the grief, mistakenly thinking that that's them when it's not. No matter how they transitioned, whether it was peacefully, violently, whether it was prolonged, sudden, it doesn't matter. As soon as they cross over, it's like a distant memory to them. They're passing, they're on the other side. So you have been just stunned by their passing and it's kind of locked in. But you can start to let that go by focusing on the now, engaging with them in the now, holding beliefs that they're here with you, even if you're not 100% sure. When you think that belief, choosing that belief that you can connect with them, you will notice that you feel some measure, even if it's just a little bit, because it depends where you are in the vibrational scale, you'll feel a little bit better or you'll feel really good, right? Because that's the truth. If it wasn't the truth, if the truth wasn't that you can connect with them, then you would feel negative emotion. But you don't. You don't. You feel at least a little hope come up within you. Some people will feel really love. They'll feel happy. Oh, yes, I can connect with my loved one. It depends on where you are on that emotional scale in that moment, but you can shift to that as you reframe your thoughts and beliefs, right? This is what your emotional guidance system is letting you know, that your beliefs are aligned with truth or with what's false. So when you feel the positive emotion, that when you think the idea that you can continue a relationship, that means that's true if you want to. And when you feel negative emotion, when you think that you will never have that relationship again, of course you're going to feel terrible, because that's not true. All right. So we're giving you an exercise to practice. We hope you will practice it and let us know how it goes for you, because you don't have to grieve unless you're choosing to believe in some negative or limiting belief about their loss. No one is ever lost. No one. You were always connected, but you are so powerful, so incredibly powerful as an aspect of creator, that you can choose to believe that they are gone from your life forever, and you can live that illusion for the remainder of your time while you're in a body. And there are people who do that, who live the remaining years believing that their loved one is gone, or that they have to wait till they go to the other side. And so they are living with their grief in that way. You don't have to do that. And you can continue your relationship through the veil when you believe that's possible, and you believe that you can, and you lean into that, because now your vibration has raised. You're closer in frequency to fifth density. Make it your goal to rise up to fourth density. Fourth density is the next evolution of humanity. More people are shifting up to that in raising their consciousness. And you know you're doing that if you can hold a more positive state of, your belief system and your emotions. Not all the time. Nobody's going to be able to do it all the time. But you are more in a positive state than a negative state. And you understand the dynamics of this, okay? You can do this, or you wouldn't be here on the planet right now. You certainly wouldn't be listening to me for this long, because you would have tuned me off a long time ago and said, well, that lady is just crazy. And there certainly are people who are watching me from time to time and think that I'm crazy. And that's okay, because we all get to choose the reality that we prefer using our beliefs. So what do you prefer? Stop denying who you are. Embrace the truth that you are a creator, that you are an aspect of God who is in this moment manifesting their life. You've always done it. You can't not manifest your life. You are just learning, most of you, to do it more consciously rather than unconsciously. And that's a beautiful thing. And that will raise your vibration and take you to fourth density. You're not a victim. You cannot be a victim unless you choose to believe you are. Then you get to have that experience. But in truth, you are a creator. Okay, you cannot be both. You cannot be a creator and a victim in the same moment. You can choose which one you want to be, and your experience of life is going to reflect the belief that you've chosen. But make no mistake, you're doing it. It's all an inside job. There's nobody out there doing stuff to you. You have generated all of it, every bit of it. And that's the good news, because this means you can change it. Thank you so much for watching today and rolling with us today with this live stream. This has been so exciting, right? Just see what happens as life unfolds. Well, so until next time, take